It's so funny that Americans hate the elderly because let's face it, we're all aging. We're all going to get old if you're lucky. We're all going to get older, but we just have no use for them. Unless you're contributing or spending or entertaining, America has no use for you.
I wake up in the morning with a smile on my face, feeling thankful for the love and the happiness we chase. Sun is shining brightly, sky so blue and clear. With every
Old people are, they're a reminder of what is going to happen to us. We want to pretend that we're never going to be like that. We're always going to be young forever. And if you're not, at least you can get plastic surgery. There's all kinds of beauty products. At least you can make it look like you're younger than what you are, because that's the whole idea. Nobody wants to be old, and we certainly don't want to have to deal with them. Um, they're a drain on society. Well, the poorer ones are, right? Even though they've worked hard all their lives and they've contributed to all these programs, paid into them, they're not supposed to ever use them, right? They should never have to tap into them. Now, if they have to go back to work to supplement their income, that's not good either, because now they're taking away jobs from the next generation. So no matter what they do, they're wrong. You know, what do we do with them? What's the answer? Do you guys know? What do other countries do? Is it just America that despises their elderly? From what I can see, that's how it looks. It looks like other generations actually appreciate their elderly. They respect them. They look at them like the keepers of knowledge and wisdom, and they have multi-generational households, and they find things that they can do to contribute. They help out with raising the kids and helping out around the house, so both parents can go to work, because that's the biggest problem we have right now is both partners have to work. So nobody is able to stay home to care for the kids or to care for parents as they get older. Because that's what happens. A lot of older people, they might need some assistance. They might have to move in, not complete assistance, just a little bit, so they might have to move in with their kids. But if they're both working, nobody has time. So they're like, let's just put them in a nursing home. And usually they're not really nice nursing homes. And God forbid if they ever have to actually go visit them, maybe on holidays, because they're busy, they don't have time for that. So that's kind of where we're at in this country with older people. We just, we don't want to be them, and we don't have time for them, and we don't know what to do with them. I guess the moral of the story would be to live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. God forbid you live past the age of, well, I don't know. What do you consider old? Everybody's different. When I was young, I considered 45 old. Now that I am older, almost 64, I I say the word old because to me it just means I've lived a long time. I know, I talked about this, how a lot of people think old is like the worst thing you can say. Don't say old. It's a crime because then everybody will know you got one foot in the grave. You're old, you're decrepit, you're worn out. We've got to change that. We've got to change the way society views older people. Like I said, other countries have much more respect for their older people. It's just in this country where we idolize youth and money. So to be old and poor, those are the worst crimes you could possibly commit. You are useless. And as I get older, I've learned to appreciate older people. Um, Not everybody's decrepit when they're in their 60s and 70s. I've met people in their 90s that are still sharp as a tack and still physically mobile, doing things, maybe not as fast as they did when they were younger, but they're still contributing. They're living their lives, and it gives us hope. Um, Life doesn't end when you turn 65 or whatever retirement age is. For some of us, it's just the beginning. But like I said, the two worst crimes you can commit is being old and being poor. Oh, I'm old. It's not a bad word. I'm not putting myself down in any ways. I'm healthy, strong, still working. I'm fine with being older. I've lived a long time. I hate it when people say she's 67 years young. It's so dumb. It's like, no, I'm old. I'm old. But is old bad? Who decided that old was bad? Well, this country, obviously. But I don't mind that. But being poor, you know, being old is, if you're lucky, is going to happen to you. You're gonna live, a long time if you're lucky. Now, you can't control that, right? It's just part of aging. But whether you're poor or not poor, that's something that you do have some control over. And that's what I'm working on. And right now, I would say we're not considered poor, but we're certainly not rich. We're in between and we're working on it. But it could go either way in the next couple of years, with society, and things could happen and affect our finances. I don't know. That's why I'm going to continue working, to ensure that that doesn't happen. But if it does, if we get to that point where we might need some assistance, that's, like I said, that's the worst thing you can do. Even if you've paid into it all your life, you are not supposed to ever tap into it. So God forbid that should happen. And that's what we're trying to avoid. That's, why I continue working. And hopefully we won't reach that point. Hopefully we'll be self-sufficient for as long as we live. But like I said, I think I'm going to live another 20, 30 years. I feel really good. I feel healthy and strong. I've changed my diet. You guys know the story, and became healthy, and I feel good. I feel like I could live that long, but I could get struck by lightning tomorrow, get hit by a bus. Those things happen too. But let's say nothing happens and I do live another 20, 30 years. Let's say I make it into my 90s, because I see a lot of people in their 90s. I don't know that my finances are, we saved and we put money away because I think in our minds, we thought we would, retire at 65 and probably live another 10, 15 years, because that's the most common. I think what is the medium age for women? It's 80, and I think for men it's a little bit younger, 75 or something. So I think that's what we thought. We never really thought we could possibly live beyond that, because we just didn't expect to be around that long. And now that we're getting closer to that age and we suspect that that could happen, now we're like, oh geez, we didn't save that much money. But we're hopefully, because we're going to be debt free. I got a 2-year plan. You guys know about that. We do still have some debts, minor, but we have some debts. We want to be completely debt free so that we can live comfortably off, our social security checks and our savings. I don't want to ever sell my house. You guys watched that video, but I'm fortunate to have it, because if it ever comes to that, if we can no longer pay all of our bills because the economy's, and inflation's through the roof, and and social security isn't going to go up as much as inflation, right? There may come a time when we're like, okay, we've pretty much depleted our savings, now we're going to have to tap into our house. That's our only other money. So we'd have to sell our house. And I know a lot of you said, well, rent's going to be more expensive. Yeah, it is. But we need that money in order to pay other bills, because we have a house in California. We do have a decent amount of equity. It could last us even if we had to pay rent somewhere. But I lost my train of thought. I always do that. I am getting older. But hopefully we won't, like I said, we won't have to sell the house to supplement our income. That's the goal, which is why I'm working now, trying to add more to our savings, pay off debts. You want to be completely debt free. But yeah, I want to have money to go and do things. I still want to travel and have fun, and those things aren't free. And I appreciated all the comments I got on the video about not wanting to have to sell my house. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. And you guys know, apparently I'm not the only one. And it's our home, and it's hard to buy another one after this age. And we probably wouldn't, to be honest with you. We would probably just buy a piece of property and get a either an RV or a modular. I gotta answer this. I'll be right. Okay, sorry about that. Where was I? Um, I guess it's a pretty real possibility that we might end up selling the house if we live longer than we estimated. Which is a good thing. I want to live a longer life. If we die sooner, then yeah, we'll sell the house. We can leave it to our kids. But like I said, if we outlive our money, our savings, and one of us could pass, and probably will, right? One of us is going to pass before the other, and then the one that's left behind is going to be relying on one check. And then we wouldn't be able to meet all the, taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, car insurance. You live in California, you got to have a car. We live out in a remote area. We would be screwed if we didn't have a vehicle. I know a lot of people said, well, you can sell one of your vehicles or sell your vehicle if we lived in the inner city and there was public transportation available. But where we're at, it's not a good idea. It just wouldn't be wise. It would end up costing us more in the long run. So as long as it's a paid for vehicle, we could do that. But yeah, if we're living on one income, that's going to change things drastically, and more than likely at that point, unless, like I said, we could rent out one of the rooms. We've done that before, and we've had great success with that. We've rented out some of the rooms when we were first empty nesters, and we rented out a couple of the rooms actually to family and to friends. I would do that. I wouldn't rent to anybody I didn't know. I mean, but even then, you could still run into problems, of course. But it's a viable option. It would be something to consider, and like possibly adding on a dwelling in the yard, or renovating the garage. There's things that could be done. So I would consider those first before I decided to sell. I don't know anything about the reverse mortgage situation. Some of you are totally for it. Others are just adamantly against it. I don't know. I would have to look into that and see what I thought, or talk to a financial advisor, because I just don't know. But I would add that to my list of options to research further. But there's several possibilities before I would actually, just give in and say, okay, I've got to sell the house at this point. So we'll see. I like I said, I hope it doesn't ever come to that. But I don't know what the future will bring. I hope that I'm around for another 20, 30 years. I really do. I'm going to be 64, 30 years, 94. I told you about the lady I ran into at the grocery store was 92. She was still driving. She looked amazing. She seemed physically fit. She was alert. I thought, if I was like that at that age, that totally increases your quality of life. I don't want to be 92 and living in, a nursing home, and have dementia or something like that. No. But if I'm as physically active as this lady and sharp, yeah, I'd like to be around, because there's so much more I want to do, and I'm going to need 30 more years to do everything I want to do, and to watch my grandkids grow up and to watch them have kids. So yeah, I do want to be around. There was a time when I didn't. I was ready. I was tired. I was burnt out, and life just didn't look that great. But now things are looking good, and I'm feeling optimistic. So yeah, I'd like to be around another 20, 30 years. But ultimately, I don't think I will be as well off in 20, 30 years financially. I don't know. But who knows? Things could change. So I got to let you guys go. I do got to do Uber. I still work. I try to do the lunch rush at least a couple times a week, and then I do the dinner rush, and it's picking up. I'll have you guys know the summer slump, I think, is over. The same with YouTube. Even though I lost a lot of subscribers because of my recent posts, people don't agree with me, think they have to leave. It's like, do you have to agree with everything I say to be here? Come on, at least, I don't know, have some kind of an open mind. We don't have to agree on everything to be friends. But anyway, I did lose, a few subscribers, but they're coming back, or I'm getting new ones. And my views are way up, which is wonderful. And I think that's because the summer slump is gone. I think, the kids are back in school. People have more time to devote to YouTube. So thank you for those of you that are here. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your comments and the thumbs ups, even the thumbs down. Believe it or not, it helps. It's all interaction with YouTube. They just look at it as, you have interaction. People are watching your video. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to let you go, and I will see you in the next video.